Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program The Journey Begins, Part 5. We are here blasting off from the KSC on another mission back to Minmus. In fact, almost exactly the same mission, only landing in a different place. This is part of a bit of a science sweep we did, so I'm just going to go through this sort of recap style because, well, you've seen this same thing before. Valentina here, getting her chance to walk on another planetary body. Jebediah came back last time and broke the somewhat devastating news that Minmus wasn't the desert-filled paradise they had all hoped for, and Valentina wanted to get her chance to go and check because, well, you know what Jeb can be like sometimes. So she picks her landing spot here on Minmus's Lesser Flats, slightly insulting name but never mind, and gently touches down, getting her chance to walk on an alien world. And as Valentina finally sets foot on Minmus, that's one small step for a Kerbal, one instance of shameless repetition for this channel. Anyway, Valentina takes those reports and finally plants a flag to let everyone know she was there. Nice one, Valentina. So then it's time for her to wend her merry way home on an uneventful and above all quite dark journey back, here coming back on the night side of Kerbin. I'm sure they'll be able to find that capsule fine anyway. So she splashes down, but weaving back to Minmus not once, but twice. Yes, Jeb here getting his second chance. We blast off, we pick out another spot that we haven't been to before, this tiny little basin here. Not Minmus's Greater Flats, not Minmus's Lesser Flats, but just Minmus's Flats for this one. So Jeb gets out and does the job he was sent here to do, no less enthusiastic for having been here already. He gets down to taking those reports, hoovering up more of that sweet science, and finally planting a second flag of his own on Minmus's minty green surface. Congratulations, Jebediah. And before long he makes his own, equally uneventful, yet slightly brighter journey home, coming back here in bright Kerbal sunlight. All goes without a hitch, and before too long, he too is landing in Kerbin's oceans. Time for us to go and see what we have harvested there. So this gives us a total of 1,589 science. And that leaves us here in research and development with, well, if these are 160 each, that leaves us just shy of 10 of them. So 9 we have to pick up on this 6th tier of the tech tree. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's not really a case of what we want as what we don't want. So let's have a look. We have heavier rocketry, could be useful. Advanced fuel systems, the RCS tanks I was after. Last time out, actuators, we will need those soon. The plane parts, I don't think we're going to be doing anything with those in the immediate future. Landing legs, that's got the bigger heat shield as well. Possibly specialized control. Are those are the monopropellant tanks? Those might come in handy. The larger command modules, not top of the priority list. Advanced exploration, those have got the better ladders, and the lab, precision engineering, more structural parts, electronics, the solar panels, though the better solar panels are going to come in useful, and heat management. No, we don't need heat management, so we're going to go for everything apart from heat management and those plane parts. And there we go. And now for something a little bit different. We needed a rocket to put a relatively light payload into low Kerbin orbit, so we had to scrabble around at the back of a closet and we managed to dig out one of these old Newton Mark IIs, and atop that we've strapped our latest vehicle, currently hidden behind this fairing, but we'll get a look at that soon enough. And that is going to go and do a, well, not an important mission, but a mission I've been meaning to do for a while. I did say towards the start of this series, I wanted to keep space junk to an absolute minimum, none if I could possibly help it. And during our flyby of the moon, we left a fairly hefty chunk of debris in orbit around Kerbin, so we are going to go and deal with that. Just pitch this over. Behaving a lot better than the Darwin rockets do, but I do like those multi-coupler designs. So yeah, looking a lot like an RPG from this angle. But that's not how we're going to deal with the debris. It's going to be a bit more involved than firing a rocket launcher at it. So pushing on into orbit here. There's the offending article. It's orbiting at about 76 kilometers, so there's not really the option to get closer in, do a closer orbit, catch up with it and do it that way. So we are going to have to go into a higher orbit, wait for it to catch up with us, and and then drop down upon it. Our first stage should be burning out. Indeed it is. Let's just fire up that second stage and push onwards. The initial apoapsis, our thrust to weight ratio has just gone through the roof, so let's point this over towards the horizon. Our initial apoapsis is going to have to be above 100,000. I'm going to go for about 120,000. See how that does us, and then we can adjust it from there if needs be. We're going to lose a bit to the atmosphere, so go a bit higher. And there we are. Just wait for us to get above about 50,000, and then we can deploy this fairing. And there is our new vehicle. Those of you who've played Kerbal Space Program a lot will recognise this thing on the front as the Claw, albeit in its undeployed configuration here. It does make the whole thing look a little bit like the Hitachi Magic Wand. Ask your parents, kids. Yeah, I swear Squad put some of these parts in here on purpose. Anyway, let's time accelerate forwards until we're near our apoapsis. We have very little fuel left in this second stage, so I'm going to burn a little earlier with that just to get rid of what's left in there. Perfect. Stage that. Fire up that engine. Gonna be a little more pernickety than usual about this orbit. When you're doing an orbital rendezvous, it really does help to keep your orbit as circular as possible. I'm going to do this in map view, actually. Just thrust above the horizon, just to bring our apoapsis back in front of us. Yeah, that's looking like it's going to be pretty good. Let's see if we can get it a bit better. Perfect. So now we need to start planning our maneuvers to rendezvous with this bit of junk. So our first thing is to make sure I've got the right piece of debris there. Yep. Is to get our orbits onto the same plane, because that can really be a source of unnecessary separation. So this is the ascending node, so we need to thrust downwards. Wait for that to go. A little bit less. Little bit less. It does tend to be quite sensitive when your orbits are already very close to each other, so that should do us. Right, so let's time warp round there and see if we can get our planes to align. Very light vehicle this, so turning very quickly. Just get us around there. We're only going to have to thrust very gently. Pretty much perfect there. That'll do. So, where are we? Now we have to plan our rendezvous maneuver. Add our maneuver node there. Gonna have to drag our periapsis down to about 76 kilometers. What is it there? 81. Those rendezvous nodes appear. Split into two, which means we're on about the right track. And then just drag this around until those two arrows line up. What are we here? Separation 1.6 kilometers. I'm not going to go not going to fine tune it more than that, because by the time you actually get round and start thrusting, it's inevitably going to be a little off. So we can just fine tune that sort of as we're doing the maneuver itself. Just speed us round here, all the way around. Watch the debris getting ever closer. I want to point retrograde. So where are we? Just going to be a very short burn. So let's burn off most of that and then fine tune it. So I'm going to turn off the maneuver node to fine tune it. 1.6, can we get, nope. That's about 2 kilometers. That'll do. So where is our debris? Just time warp round. Our little piece of space junk should come into view. Is it not? Have I not turned that on? Our little piece of space junk should be in view. There it is. So wait for it to get about 2 kilometers away. Gonna kill our relative speed. There we go. We need to go to target view. Point retrograde with respect to our relative speed to our target. Wait for it to get about 2 kilometers away. I'm getting a bit closer. 61.5. I reckon any more than that will be pushing it, so we'll thrust there. Kill it all the way down to... That'll do. Point towards the target. Pick up a bit of speed. And this, if you don't get a particularly good... if you don't get a really exact initial orbital maneuver, rendezvous maneuver, is how you close the distance. Just rinse and repeat that. Kill your relative speed, point towards the target, and thrust. And we are coming in quite nicely. Coming in over the night side, although I think we're about to get sunrise, so that shouldn't be a problem. Oh, that is a big bit of space junk. Let's just kill our speed there. Oh, perfect. One thing I'm going to do is we're going to run out of power before too long, and something I should have done much earlier is deploy these solar panels. Let's get in a little closer. Ooh. A little too close. Getting a bit too enthusiastic there. Right, so it's time to turn on those RCS thrusters and get ourselves docked. Now this takes us a little while, so we're just going to go through this at 4 times time acceleration. I didn't have my manoeuvring hat on when I did this, it's fair to say. We try and come in right at the front of this little second stage here in orbit, because hopefully that would cause the least sort of centre of mass versus centre of thrust issues. You see me here trying to line it up from the back. I'm not sure how wise that is. Before too long I revert to my normal trick of just sort of trying to line it up by eye, sort of looking it through one direction and then sort of going through 90 degrees to sort of keep it lined up. And before too long we capture it with the claw. Everything looks good, everything looks nice and lined up. Right, so let's get this thing deorbited. There is a bit of fuel left in there. I think it probably will be enough, so we are going to use those 3 big engines to deorbit ourselves. Let's shut down that then. Still being controlled from this vehicle, so we want to point prograde. Yeah, that's right. Prograde with respect to our little unmanned vehicle there. And then, once we throttle up, yep, we should make our way into the atmosphere. Get our periaps down to about there. We want to deorbit quite aggressively, because, well, the point is that none of this survives. So let's see how we do with that. Let's time warp forward until we're in the atmosphere. There we go. We don't really want to, don't need to keep stability on at the moment. Yeah, this bears it's not a million miles away from the removed debris satellite that's just a few weeks ago deployed from the International Space Station, whose job was to do kind of just this: try and catch a piece of space debris and then drag it back down into the atmosphere to harmlessly burn up. Obviously, they're not actually going for a real piece of space junk; they're sort of creating their own. But yeah, hopefully that works. They're using a net and a harpoon as their testing methods. Basically, they're going fishing for space junk. I don't know how much like normal fishing that works. Whether, you get the satellite controllers sitting around getting drunk until the satellite wanders past, or they'll be there dragging some small satellite back down into orbit going, I nearly had the Hubble telescope. But yeah, hopefully that works, because space is getting very crowded at the moment. We're not really getting much heating on this. Hopefully that should... there we go. Things starting to heat up. Anything going to be destroyed. Those fins heating. Yeah, re-entry in Kerbal Space Program is a little gentler than it is in real life, because deorbiting like anything like this in real life would of course mean it gets completely destroyed. I've had this long enough to remember the days before re-entry heating that could destroy things was a thing in Kerbal Space Program. Then, if you wanted re-entry heating back then, you had to get a mod called Deadly Re-entry, which was, well, I think by default setting was a lot harsher than Kerbal Space Program currently is. Probably a lot more realistic in that regard. But no, it does a fine job. Not to downplay what Squad have done. And it seems almost all the satellite, almost all this vehicle, minus some fins and some solar panels, has survived largely unscathed. Let's see if the ground can finish off what the atmosphere was unable to do. Here we go. Yep, that did the job. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you next time.